Yo. Kaboom. Kabeezy. Two motherfucking shells left. Two motherfucking shells. What's up, Caffrey? What's going on, Jordan? I'm about to goddamn continue reading this book, you know what I'm saying? But before I get started, I had to roll a blunt, cuzzo. So that's what I'm doing now. I just didn't want to do it on the camera. You know what I mean? So this live, right? Even though I'm gonna be reading, the book is called The Atheist Universe. It's called Atheist Universe: The Thinking Person's Answer to Christian Fundamentalism. And it makes the case against intelligent design. It's by David Mills. The foreword was written by Dorian Sagan. And it's considered an admirable work by Richard Dawkins. So, if you're in the room right now, if you're in this live and you're watching it right as we speak, and you haven't made your presence known, could you please say hello? You got me intrigued. Well, that's what's up, Melinda. That's what I'm talking about. This is an interesting book. So, the first part of the book, he's being interviewed by some guy. I wanted to put the whole interview in like in a format in a video. So, but I'm not going to do that because that takes too much time. But anywho, so, and it pretty much addresses all of the big questions that Christians have for atheists. The same typical questions, you know what I mean, that you hear all the motherfucking time. Same tired ass questions. Because one of the charges against Christian thinking that we atheists have is that Christian indoctrination, Christian dogma, sort of puts an end to scientific inquiry and investigation. I mean, if you feel like you already have the answer, then that stops you from going to go then find the answer, because you assume you already know what it is. And that answer seems to always just be, God did it, which literally explains nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like if I came home and my fucking truck was completely fixed. You know what I'm saying? Just whatever problems it has, complete, like it's brand new. And then someone was like, and I'm like, what? How the fuck did this happen? And then someone was like, John did it. I'm like, but that doesn't explain anything. That doesn't tell me anything. It just tells me, I guess, that person, John, is perhaps responsible for its new condition, but I would like to know exactly what did you do? Like, did you give it a new engine? Did you change the transmission? Did you just simply give it a tune-up? The new tires? What did you do? Like, that's what I'm asking. Not just he did it, because that doesn't fucking explain shit. Like, and so that's what we mean. So it's like saying God did it it literally explains nothing. It's just like, all right, well, now we have to establish which God did it. How do you know that God did it? How do you know that God, even exists and even has the ability to do it and wanted to do it? Like, even if it could do it, how do you know it did? Like, it was like, I don't want to fucking create a fucking universe. I got other shit to do. Like, why would I? You know, I'm just saying, like, there's so many things we would have to address first before we could even go into that. But yeah, so he answers like a lot of the main questions. But then he goes into, so the first part is sort of just the back and forth question answer. And then he goes into just more in depth into pretty much all of his answers. Such a good fucking book. I've already read it once, and and this is my second reading of it. It's not a very big book. Like, it's under 300 pages, but it's definitely more than 250 pages. So, and we are currently on page 69. So again, the book is Atheist Universe, The Thinking Person's Answer to Christian Fundamentalism by David Mills. If you're interested, you know what I'm saying? Because I being someone who is an atheist, but who is also I have an intellectual curiosity for these things. So I'm not only getting books on science or from people who were Christians and then became atheists, people who were preachers and then became atheists, people who studied to become preachers and became atheists. Not only am I reading those books, but I'm also reading books from Christians. I mean, I've read the Malleus Maleficarum. How many Christians do you know have read the Malleus? So I'm just saying. I actually look into this shit because I want to know. I don't want to just assume things that make me feel good, because I could care less, literally, about feeling good. I want to know what's right. I want to know what is the truth. And if the truth is that there's a God, then so fucking be it. But there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that there is any sort of God beyond space and time and who created the universe and all that nonsense that you get from fucking Christians. It's just absolute trash. There's no fucking scientific empirical evidence. God damn it, man. I'm about to fuck, man. You know, I done bought this new grinder and it is not, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all right. That's all right. You don't really believe that, do you? I don't really believe what? God loves you even if you don't love yourself. And first of all, this is exactly why Christians get on my motherfucking nerves, because every one of them thinks they're so fucking high and mighty and they know something you don't. First of all, most of you Christians don't even fucking read the Bible. You don't look into the science. You just ask questions and then you just let your incredulity lead you to baseless assumptions. Oh, look at the trees. Oh, look at you. Oh, where did this come from? And all that. Just because you don't fucking know doesn't mean that you can just plug in your fiction made up fucking God. It's ridiculous. None of the arguments hold up for God. Not one of them. I mean, but you can believe whatever you want. I mean, I really don't fucking give a shit. I just wish y'all would live more of your values, your American values. because I think it's disgusting that you have to be a Christian in order to be a politician. Because I'm sorry, but Christians don't represent my morals or my values. Christians get their morals from a book, or at least they proclaim they do, that says women are literally nothing more than the property of men. You're nothing more than that. That's literally it. I mean, you get your morals from a book that says slavery is totally acceptable. And this is how you go about it. And these are the rules for your Hebrew slaves versus your other slaves. Yeah, you get your morals from a book that says go ahead and enslave your fellow man. And then most of you Christians don't even have the fucking balls to just stand on it, to just be like, yeah, that's what it says. So fucking what? God says you can have slaves. Who are you? You know what I'm saying? But nah, y'all want to try to soften this shit and be like, oh, it's just indentured servitude, as if that makes it any fucking better. But even if it was, that wasn't for all slaves. That was just for certain slaves. You should really read your Bible before you start trying to defend it. But that's just a typical American thing, I suppose. You start to vehemently defend a position you have no clue about, that you could not defend, not educationally, not convincingly, not to someone who's a skeptic. Maybe someone else who already believes in the make-believe and the fantasies and Santa Claus and Peter Pan and Blair Witches and carrying on. Like, y'all, maybe you can convince them, but you will not convince me with anything outside of independently verifiable empirical evidence, which none of you fucking Christians have. So you can keep self-filleting with your fucking God belief and continue to be ignorant, willfully ignorant. And that is 100% your choice and your right to do. Just don't think you'll convince me with any of that nonsense. Anyway, so here we are, the laws of physics. Today, creationist writings and lectures abound with reference to physical law. Creationists adore using technical jargon and hope that such a lofty vocabulary bestows upon them a mantle of academic respectability. Yet, when carefully examining their scientific books and pamphlets, two significant facts become clear. One, creationists misunderstand, misuse, and rewrite the established laws of numerous scientific disciplines. And number two, creationists, on a more basic level, do not appear to grasp what modern science means by the term physical law. Before proceeding, therefore, I must define what science does and does not mean by the term physical law. Simply defined, a scientific or physical law is a human description of how the universe consistently behaves. For example, Isaac Newton, after studying the behavior of celestial bodies, proposed his law of universal gravitation, detailing and predicting with mathematical precision the orbits of the nearby planets. Gregor Mendel, breeding various species of plant life, established the framework for a law of genetic inheritance, predicting with accuracy the reproductive results of crossbreeding. Both these laws, Newton's and Mendel's, were expanded and refined by later scientists whose experimental observations were more precise and informed. The important point here is that scientific or physical laws are human descriptions based upon human observation and are therefore subject to future revision or even outright rebuttal. Ignoring this definition, creationists often claim that the laws of physics govern the behavior of the universe, that the law of gravity, for example, causes objects to fall earthward, or that the laws of chemistry control molecular interaction. Such a claim, i.e., that physical laws govern the physical universe, reflects a fundamental misperception of science among the creationists. Ferenczi and Holther, in their book, Fallacy, The Counterfeit of Arguments, provide an illuminating and relevant analogy. Suppose that a newspaper reporter is sent to cover a high school football game. The reporter sits in the press box and writes a newspaper article about the game he just witnessed. It would be absurd to believe that this reporter's written account of the game's outcome caused the game's outcome. Likewise, it is absurd to state that the laws of physics, which are likewise written accounts of human observation, cause the outcome of the observed phenomena. Creationists loathe to admit that physical laws are human in origin. Instead, creationists believe that the laws of physics exist independently from man and therefore require a quote unquote lawgiver, a divine power who, through these laws, governs the behavior of the universe. If the laws of physics are human inventions, then the concept of a divine quote unquote lawgiver becomes unnecessary. Man himself is the lawgiver. To recognize that mere scientists are the lawgivers is not to suggest, however, that the behavior of the physical universe does not have underlying causal antecedents. No true scientist would ever suggest that the universe behaves in a completely arbitrary, unpredictable fashion. Indeed, the entire purpose of science is to discover and understand the regularities and causal relationships at work throughout the universe. But by believing that the laws of physics cause the behavior of the universe, creationists overlook the need for pursuing genuine causal explanations. For example, if I ask why a rock thrown skyward soon falls back to the earth, it would be meaningless to respond, it's the law of gravity. Gravity, or the law of gravity, is simply the name and description we assign to the observed phenomenon. The true underlying reason why all objects in the universe attract each other is to this day a baffling enigma. True, Einstein showed that massive objects distort space-time and produce gravitational effects. But why do massive objects distort space-time? Such questions are still unanswered and are by no means addressed by saying, it's just the law of gravitation. A physical law, then, is a man-made description rather than a causal explanation of how the universe consistently behaves. The so-called law of cause and effect, often employed by creationist writers and speakers, is a philosophical and theological plaything rather than an established law of the physical sciences. Likewise, the law of cause and effect provides no explanation to any scientific problem or question. Suppose, for example, that my car fails to run properly and I have it towed to a garage for repair. I ask the service technician why my car will not operate. If the service technician replied, it's just the law of cause and effect again, I would certainly feel that he was giving me the runaround and that his quote-unquote explanation was totally empty. A realistic scientific explanation might be that my spark plugs are disconnected, that the gasoline therefore cannot be ignited, that the engine therefore cannot rotate the drive shaft, that the rear axle attached to the drive shaft cannot be rotated, and that the wheels connected to the axle have no current means of forward propulsion. A genuine scientific explanation then incorporates specific mechanistic relationships and interactions. Any argument, thus, that appeals blindly to the law of cause and effect without filling in the blanks is likewise an argument totally empty of scientific content. The conservation of mass energy. Now that we've discussed what is and what is not meant by the term physical law, let me restate my thesis that a long-established law of physics may be extrapolated to construct a rudimentary pre-Big Bang cosmology. The scientific principle to which I refer is the law of the conservation of mass energy. During the 19th century, the law of the conservation of mass energy was still divided into two disparate laws, the law of the conservation of mass and the law of the conservation of energy. The law of the conservation of mass stated that mass cannot be created or destroyed, but can be changed from one form of another. For example, a piece of coal has a specific mass, a given amount of material of which it is composed. If this piece of coal is burned, it becomes carbon dioxide, gas, water vapor, and ash. But according to the law of the conservation of mass, the combined mass of the resulting byproducts, for example, the total amount of material present after the coal is burned, is precisely the same as the original piece of coal. Mass can neither be created nor destroyed. The law of the conservation of energy was essentially the same, but is more difficult to visualize. There are many different forms of energy: chemical energy, electrical energy, solar energy, heat, energy of motion, electromagnetic radiation, and various other overlapping forms of usable and unusable energy. The energy conservation law similarly stated that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but can be changed from one form into another. For example, a chemical reaction might occur in which energy appears to be lost, but if careful measurements are made of the resulting heat, which is a form of energy, or the resulting light or electrical byproducts, also forms of energy, the total amount of energy present remains unchanged after the chemical reaction. Energy can be neither created nor destroyed. In the last decade of the 19th century, however, a French scientist named Antoine Henry, I'm not going to pronounce his last name because it's just too complicated anyway, was studying uranium in his laboratory. In the vicinity of this element, energy seemed to appear out of nowhere, while uranium mass seemed to simultaneously disappear into thin air. He had discovered natural radioactivity, i.e., nuclear energy. Within 2 decades following his discovery, Albert Einstein proved that mass from radioactive elements does not actually disappear, and that the energy generated therefrom does not arise ex nihilo. Einstein showed that mass and energy are, in reality, the same thing, expressed by nature in 2 different ways. In his famous equation, E equals mc squared, i.e., energy equals mass times the velocity of light squared, Einstein fused together the 2 conservation laws into a single comprehensive principle, the law of the conservation of mass energy. This more inclusive law states that mass may be changed into energy, as in the case of uranium, and that energy may be changed into mass. Mass may change its form, and energy may change its form. But when all factors are considered and combined, mass energy cannot be created or destroyed. The total amount of mass energy in the universe always remains constant. Moreover, all material objects, you, me, the earth, the stars, and the smallest atoms, are literally made of mass energy in its various forms. Since the time Einstein published his theories over 90 years ago, all careful empirical observations have completely confirmed his law of the conservation of mass energy. Unless or until future evidence reveals this law to be an error, today's science-minded individual is obligated to accept its description of the universe. During the last 20 years, astrophysicists and cosmologists, led by Cambridge University's Dr. Stephen Hawking, have expanded even further our understanding of mass energy and have explained how mass energy's seemingly bizarre properties actually solve the riddle of cosmic origins. Hawking and others have described a naturally occurring phenomenon known as vacuum fluctuation, in which matter is created out of what appears to be perfectly empty space, i.e., out of a perfect vacuum. Scientists have discovered that even in a perfect vacuum, in which all traditionally understood forms of matter and energy are absent, random electromagnetic oscillations are present. These oscillations actually represent a form of energy now called vacuum fluctuation energy, which can be converted into matter in complete harmony with the mass energy conservation laws. In other words, the quote-unquote nothingness of a perfect vacuum in empty space can and does spontaneously produce matter in full agreement with Einstein's long-established laws. Extrapolation. If mass energy cannot be created or destroyed, and if the universe is entirely composed of mass energy, then the law of the conservation of mass energy may be extrapolated to this startling conclusion. The universe, in one form or another, in one density or another, always existed. There was never a time when the mass energy comprising our universe did not exist, if only in the form of an empty oscillating vacuum or an infinitely dense theoretical point called a singularity consisting of no volume whatsoever. At the Big Bang, the universe was incredibly dense and unimaginably hot. The elementary particles, which now constitute the chemical elements, could not exist under such extreme conditions. Immediately following the Big Bang, therefore, the rapidly expanding universe is believed to have been composed solely of energy, with matter condensing later after further expansion allowed for cooler temperatures. Regardless of its form, however, the universe, which is the sum of all mass energy, could not, according to the mass energy conservation law, come into existence ex nihilo in the way demanded by creationists. According to this well-confirmed scientific principle, our universe of mass energy was never created and cannot be destroyed. To believe in scientific creationism, therefore, is to overlook or dismiss the law of the conservation of mass energy. If creationists possess empirical evidence to contradict the law of the conservation of mass energy, let them share such information with the general scientific community. Otherwise, the fundamental doctrine of creationism, that the universe was created by God out of literally and absolutely nothing, must be recognized as theological rather than scientific. The term creation science is therefore a self-contained contradiction in terms. Now here's some objections. But what about Mortimer Adler's question, why is there something rather than nothing? I hesitate to criticize Adler because I admire his writings and respect his outstanding contributions to education and to contemporary philosophy. So in his defense, let me point out that he has always claimed to speak as a philosopher and never as a scientist. So his question, why is there something rather than nothing, assumes that there's supposed to be nothing, that the natural state of the universe is non-existent. That is what he is presupposing, that there shouldn't be anything, that there's supposed to be nothing, and that the quote-unquote natural state of the universe is non-existence. The fact that there obviously is something then is viewed by Adler as a miracle requiring a supernatural explanation. The perceived mystery of Adler's question lies not in a supernatural answer, but in his presumptive formulation of the question itself. His question is similar to presuming that grass is supposed to be red, then claiming that its undeniably green color is evidence that a divine miracle has occurred. From a scientific perspective, though, the question is, why shouldn't there be something rather than nothing? What law of science claims that the universe is not supposed to exist, or that non-existence is the natural condition of the universe? There's no such law. On the contrary, the law of the conservation of mass energy leads to a radically different conclusion, that the mass energy, which now constitutes our universe, always existed throughout the universe, as we observe it today, did indeed have a beginning of the Big Bang. Now, stated in terms of the first cause argument, for something to exercise a causal influence within or upon the universe, this causal agent must itself already exist. In other words, something non-existent cannot possibly serve as any type of causal agent within or upon the universe. The entire concept of causation, therefore, assumes previous existence. But instead of recognizing that causation assumes existence, creationists espouse a perverse backward logic that existence of the universe assumes causation, i.e., that the universe was created out of nothing and thus requires a supernatural causal explanation. No scientist argues that a universe created by God out of nothing would not require a supernatural explanation. Creationists miss entirely the relevant questions, which are: one, what evidence is there that the evidence emerged ex nihilo? That the universe emerged ex nihilo. And two, what evidence is there that mass energy, which constitutes the universe, always existed? Answer: we have no evidence that mass energy appeared ex nihilo. And we have well-confirmed empirical observations that mass energy cannot appear ex nihilo. If we adhere rigorously to the scientific method, therefore, we are led to one conclusion. Our universe of mass energy, in one form or another, always existed. Period. The only way creationism could qualify as a scientific explanation for the existence of the universe would be for the creationists to detail the precise mechanism or the means by which nothing was transformed by God into something. And that's exactly what the fuck I was just talking about. It's not enough to just say God did it. You're going to have to explain to me then exactly what mechanism did he use to do that. And then if you say then, oh, he used the Holy Spirit. See, this is where we get into Occam's razor. You're just adding on more and more complexity to the question we're trying to answer. as opposed to just answering the question with the most simplest and most likely answer. Because then if we were to say, well, the Holy Ghost, he used the Holy Ghost as the mechanism to do it. It's like, all right, well, first of all, A, you're presupposing a God. B, you're presupposing a Holy Ghost. And C, you're presupposing that it can do anything. And still have not answered the question. All right, well, even if he'd used the Holy Ghost, what did the Holy Ghost do? That's what I'm talking about. So anyway, absent such an explanation, creationism ceases to be science and reverts to being religious bullshit. Proclaiming that creation is a divine mystery or that creation resulted from the laws of cause and effect is decidedly not a scientific explanation. Mathematically absorbed theoretical physicists may object that before the Planck era, or the first microsecond after the Big Bang, our current laws of physics break down. Some may further argue that since space-time itself came into being at the Big Bang, we proffer a logically absurd and contradictory question when asking what existed or happened prior to the Big Bang. I would respond that the collapse of physical law prior to the Planck era involves the disharmony between general relativity and quantum theory, neither one of which contradicts or challenges the laws of mass energy conservation. Either general relativity or quantum theory, or both, will eventually be replaced or be shown to have broken down in the early moments of the universe. But this fact is irrelevant to the question of mass energy conservation. In the entire history of science, no real-world experiment has ever been conducted and no serious theory has ever been proposed that invalidates or threatens to invalidate the conservation of mass energy under any circumstances. Moreover, a true falsification of the mass energy conservation laws would obviously bolster a secular cosmology, since an ex nihilo appearance of mass energy would no longer require a supernatural explanation. Now, speaking in terms of pure theoretical physics, it is indeed a contradiction to ask what existed or happened prior to the Big Bang, because the emergence of space-time and therefore the concepts of before and after are obviously inextricably linked to the presence and expansion of mass energy. How could you possibly measure time without the presence and motion of matter? But in a practical debate, cosmologists, in my view, should not object too strenuously to our asking what existed or happened before the Big Bang, because prohibiting this question is perceived by the average person as an avoidance of the issue. You don't have an answer, so you're disallowing the question. Now, while we should not produce junk science just to placate the uninformed, neither should we overlook that even if permitted this off-limits question, our current laws of physics nonetheless provide a very satisfying answer to our universal origins without invoking the supernatural. If we are truly barred from questioning what existed or happened before the Big Bang, then this restriction imposed by physics would once again support a secular cosmology, because the necessity of a prior existing God could not even be taken into scientific consideration, much less be proven through scientific means, as creationism aspires to do. Psychological roadblocks. That the universe's building blocks always existed is, for most of us, a difficult and mind-boggling idea to accept. In our day-to-day affairs, all material objects certainly seem to have a beginning and ending to their existence. The new car we purchased today did not exist before the auto manufacturer designed and built the car last autumn. The vegetables we eat today did not exist a few short months ago before the planting season. A human being appears to be created inside the mother's womb. The embryo begins as a single cell, yet at birth, the child's body consists of billions of cells, all of which seem to have come into existence for a carefully designed purpose. It's no wonder, therefore, that our common sense tells us that the universe itself must have had a beginning, and so must have been created by God. Our common sense is formulated by our observations of locally occurring events, and virtually everything we observe on Earth does indeed seem at one point to come into existence and later to disappear forever into nothingness. Yet, when considering the existence of the universe, let us recall two relevant facts. Number one, our observation of locally occurring events does not necessarily establish within our minds a common sense judgment that can be applied to the universe as a whole. And secondly, a careful observation of locally occurring events will show that terrestrial objects do not truly emerge ex nihilo, as common sense tells us. Science, by its very definition, disregards common sense notions and relies solely upon experimental data to construct scientific law. It is wholly irrelevant whether we feel comfortable with the results of our experiments. These experimental results, if repeatable and independently verifiable, must be accepted, regardless of our cherished common sense theories to the contrary. Suppose, for example, that a man is standing in the middle of a vast plain. 6 feet above the ground at eye level, he points a handgun in a perfectly horizontal attitude across the plain. Not angled up, not angled down, but perfectly horizontal in aim. In his other hand, likewise at eye level, the man holds a 15-pound bowling ball. Suppose now that at the same precise instant, the man both fires a bullet horizontally across the plain and drops the bowling ball straight down to the ground. According to your common sense judgment, which object will touch ground first, the bullet or the bowling ball? I'll wait. Anyway. Do you predict that the bowling ball touches ground before the bullet does? Most people are surprised to learn what Galileo discovered centuries ago, that all objects accelerate to Earth at the same rate, regardless of their differing weights or their simultaneous propulsion toward the horizontal. In other words, if there are no external intervening factors, the bullet and the bowling ball will touch ground at the same point, at the same time. Whether our common sense feels comfortable with this conclusion is of no concern to science. The experimental results must be accepted. Likewise, a science-minded attitude requires us to accept the cosmological implications of the mass energy conservation law, whether or not we feel comfortable with those conclusions. Very often, our common sense will lead us astray if it is utilized to formulate scientific law. Many pre-Renaissance scholars thought it was common sense that the Earth was flat and motionless. If Einstein's special and general theories of relativity had been tested by common sense, Einstein would have been committed to a psychiatric hospital. Where, may I ask, is the common sense in Einstein's time dilation or in his proposition that empty space can be bent? Ideas based only upon common sense are of little use to science. Moreover, as we have discussed throughout this chapter, the law of the conservation of mass energy shows that upon careful observation, locally and universally occurring events do not and cannot produce matter or energy ex nihilo. For those of you having a hard time keeping up, ex nihilo means out of nothing. Strictly speaking, it is scientifically incorrect to say that the Ford Motor Company creates automobiles, for clearly pre-existing raw materials go into the manufacturing process. We may state more accurately that the Ford Motor Company assembles automobiles from component parts which themselves were refined from raw materials already existing on Earth. Science teaches us further that the higher elements which now compose our bodies were built up from primordial hydrogen in the internal nuclear reactions of stars. In the words of Carl Sagan, you and I are made of star stuff. In a very real sense, you and I, like our universe of mass energy, always existed, though in a strikingly different form. So the summary. What may we summarize then about a pre-Big Bang universe? According to the current laws of physics, mass energy, which began its current expansion at the Big Bang, existed prior to the Big Bang. NASA's COBE satellite has collected data that tend to support a so-called inflationary model of the Big Bang. Among other theoretical implications, the inflationary model suggests that the mass density of the universe, that is, the amount of matter scattered throughout space, may be sufficient to eventually stop through gravitational attraction the current expansion of the universe. The universe would then begin to collapse upon itself, also due to gravitational gathering. Eventually, all mass energy would return to a single contiguous point in a backward rerun of the Big Bang. Scientists have dubbed this massive collision the Big Crunch. At the moment of the Big Crunch, many scientists speculate that our universe of mass energy would rebound and explode in the form of another Big Bang. This theory, that a tightly squeezed universe would rebound, is partially based upon our understanding of supernovae, which, after collapsing upon themselves, do indeed, quote-unquote, bounce back and explode violently. Whether supernovae provide a good analogy for the universe as a whole is uncertain. Other, more recent theoretical models seem to indicate that the universe may continue expanding forever and never collapse. My own opinion, for what it's worth, is that until cosmologists provide more satisfying descriptions of the nature and quantity of the so-called dark matter and dark energy, which may actually constitute over 90% of all mass energy in the universe, no scientist has the right to arrogantly boast that he knows the final answer to this riddle. At present, the universe may be experiencing its first period of expansion, or it may have expanded and collapsed billions of times before. At the dawn of the 21st century, we don't yet know, but we may conclude, based upon our current levels of physics, that our universe of mass energy is infinitely older than its current period of expansion. Chapter 3, God of the Gaps. Does the universe show evidence of design? From nowhere, a magician appears on stage in a puff of smoke. A child in the audience cheers excitedly. The magician recruits a female volunteer, then slices her in half before the child's startled eyes. Next, a parakeet is pulled from a top hat and placed in a large cloth-covered box. Presto! The bird reappears as a man-eating tiger. A magic wand then transforms itself into a dozen roses. The child is amazed, dumbfounded, flabbergasted. What miracles this magician performs. What supernatural powers he possesses. Magic tricks, when skillfully performed, do appear to be miraculous supernatural acts. The child believes these miracles because he doesn't see and understand all that is actually occurring on stage and backstage. He doesn't notice the hidden door, the trick prop, or the two-way mirror. The miracle is created within the child's mind by his own failure to comprehend how the trick is performed. There are gaps in his understanding of the illusion's cause and effect. When the miracle-believing child learns the mechanical nuts and bolts of how a magic trick is performed, the miracle dies instantly in his mind. He's disappointed by the simple mechanics of the illusion. The magic is gone. He preferred the previous gaps in his cause-effect understanding because those gaps created the miracles he enjoyed so much. Creationists, by definition, believe in the miracle of creation. Citing their first cause argument, creationists posit that the mere existence of physical matter proves supernatural intervention at the Big Bang. Matter can't create itself, says creationists. Therefore, the universe must have been created by a supernatural power, unconstrained by the limitations of physical law. In the preceding chapter, we enumerated the unstated, false assumptions, and inaccurate scientific conclusions of the first cause argument. The most charitable comment available is that the first cause argument begs the question. For example, if God created the universe, well, then who created God? If God always existed, then why couldn't the mass energy of the universe have always existed? A less charitable comment might be that the first cause argument reflects ignorance of the scientific method, in that theological philosophizing is offered as a substitute for independent empirical verification of one's scientific conclusions. Creationists do not surrender their beliefs, however, after unsuccessfully postulating a first cause. More evidence of the supernatural is brought forth. According to creationists, the universe is governed by physical laws that they believe were purposefully designed and engineered by a miracle-working God. Creationists claim that these physical laws reveal an underlying order and regularity of the universe. The universe, they say, is like the intricate mechanism of a highly accurate pocket watch. Just as the watch requires a skillful watchmaker to account for its design and reliable function, so too the intricacy and predictability of the universe, as revealed by the laws of physics, require a divine watchmaker. Surely the exquisite heavenly clockwork of planetary motion does not result from blind chance or from the mindless chaos of brute matter. The universe is magnificently organized, we are told, and this order can flow only from God. Are creationists right? Does our universe show evidence of supernatural design and governance? I'm going to hang that question right there for a second and then go warm up my coffee and hit this blunt real quick. But the question is, before I answer it, are creationists right? Does our universe show evidence of supernatural design and governance? Does it show evidence that some supernatural entity is in control of our literal, physical, natural world? Give me 1 second. I'm gonna go warm this coffee up. Because you fucking creationists are gonna be like, yup, look at the trees. With your dumb ass response. That's such a tired ass excuse. That is not evidence for shit. That's just another claim on your incredulous part. And not evidence for the claim. Because that's not how evidence works, dumbass. That wasn't exactly warm enough, but it's gonna have to do. The unequivocal answer to this question is no. The universe shows no evidence at all of miraculous design or supernatural management. In the chapters that follow, we shall explore why creationists routinely perceive miracles where none exist. We shall see how creationists, like children at a magic show, create their own miracles by failing to observe and understand scientific cause and effect relationships. One of the most important skills a magician tries to perfect is his ability to misdirect the audience's attention. While he directs the audience's eyes toward a flashing red light, the magician secretly removes a scarf from his sleeve. While a leggy blonde struts by in a bikini, the magician lifts a rabbit into his top hat. No one notices how the trick is performed. Attention was focused elsewhere by the illusionist, and another bit of magic appears to have occurred on stage. If we selectively observe only part of the scene, miracles seem to abound. Like the magician, creationists try to focus our attention on flashy distractions while ignoring any scientific cause and effect interactions that expose the quote-unquote miracle as the mundane. Because of their misunderstanding, misuse, and frequent ignorance of many well-established scientific laws, creationists perceive a universe overflowing with miracles, all of which fall into three broad categories. 1, the miracle of planetary clockwork, which refers to the regularity of planetary and celestial motion. 2, the miracle of life on Earth, which invokes the complexity of human anatomy and that of other biological systems. And 3, miracles of Christian perception, which refer to highly positive, statistically improbable events occurring in the believer's own life. Historical background. Historically, whenever primitive man lacked scientific understanding of an observed event, he created a god of the gaps to fill the intellectual vacuum. A sailor who knew nothing of astronomy would interpret an eclipse of the sun as a sign from the Almighty. A mother, unaware of the existence of viruses and microorganisms, would ascribe her daughter's illness to the wrath of God, or perhaps the devil. A 14th century farmer, knowing nothing of soil chemistry, would attribute crop failures to the sins of his family. Unaware of biological evolution, medieval man considered the complexity of his own anatomy to be evidence of divine creation. The wider the gaps in scientific understanding, the greater the historical need for a miracle-working God of the gaps. Why does it rain? God made it rain. Why does the wind blow? God makes the wind blow. Why is the sky blue? God makes the sky blue. Why does the sun shine? God makes the sun shine. All of these questions have precise scientific answers, but pre-Renaissance man lived during a period when superstition overshadowed rational thought, and when those who proposed scientific explanations were often tortured to death by religious authorities. Galileo narrowly escaped the death sentence imposed by the Catholic Church for his telescopic observation that Jupiter's moons orbited Jupiter instead of Earth, birthplace of Jesus and presumed orbital hub of the universe. Throughout most of recorded history, God was seen as an omnipresent force, intimately involved in the smallest detail of human affairs. During the past 50 years, however, creationists have abandoned their historical position that God is a hands-on participant in all cosmic and earthly events. God is now portrayed as a more passive participator in his supervision of nature, often watching from the sidelines as nature operates on her own. Earthquakes and hurricanes, for example, are now seen by creationists as natural rather than supernatural disasters. It has become offensive to call such catastrophes acts of God, since thousands of innocent people, including many children, and many have perished horribly. Even though creationists believe that God retains power to forestall such natural disasters, God can never be criticized or blamed for allowing these tragedies to happen. God works in mysterious ways, they say. Initially, we may applaud modern creationism for finally accepting the occurrence of natural events. It's no coincidence, though, that creationism altered its position on natural phenomena at the precise historical moment that science itself began to provide concrete, verifiable explanations of these same natural events. Unfortunately, this revision in creationist doctrine was motivated not by a newfound acceptance of science, but by an attempt within an increasingly educated society to reconcile A, natural catastrophes with B, a God of infinite love and mercy. By accepting natural phenomena, creationists absolve God from direct responsibility for anything disorderly or tragic that nature inflicts upon humanity. It isn't God's fault, they say. If, on the other hand, nature is more agreeable, providing a beautiful spring day instead of a killer earthquake, then God gets the credit. As a general historical observation, each step forward taken by science has further distanced the hand of God from perceived intervention into natural events. As humanity's gaps of knowledge were slowly replaced by scientific understanding, a God of the gaps found fewer and fewer gaps in which to live. Chapter 4, the miracle of planetary clockwork. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. This was from Carl Sagan in 1934, who lived between 1934 and 1996. He was a Pulitzer Prize winning astronomer. Anyway, current advocates of creation, quote unquote, science and intelligent design remind me of the creative theologians of ancient Greece, whose vivid imaginations led them to believe in gods who guided the planets in their orbits. Today, Christian apologists maintain the hallowed tradition of ascribing to supernatural powers control of all celestial objects. In this chapter, I'd like for us to travel back in time and observe the close parallel between the, quote, science employed in ancient Greece and the, quote, astronomy of today's Christian defenders. In ancient Greece, a hunter draws his bow and launches an arrow toward his prey. The arrow speedily and mercilessly travels the distance to the doomed animal, providing dinner for the hunter's family. Citizens of ancient Greece were quite perplexed by the observed flight of such an arrow. Which god, they wondered, kept the arrow moving toward the target? The bow obviously provided the initial propulsion, but once out of direct physical contact with the bow, why didn't the arrow instantly fall to the earth? Which god, they pondered, kept the arrow aloft, at least temporarily? Which supernatural being was responsible for the arrow's continued forward motion? The true answer to this Greek riddle was to be found centuries later in Newton's familiar first law of motion, also called the law of inertia. An object in motion has a tendency to remain in motion in a straight line at a constant speed unless acted upon by an outside force. Newton showed that once the arrow was set into motion by the bow, no Greek god need be posited to explain the arrow's continued motion. Inertia keeps the arrow going until an outside force, such as the intended target or the pull of gravity, stops the arrow's forward progress. Newton's first law of motion is best demonstrated in deep space, where outside forces are virtually non-existent, i.e., no gravity, no wind resistance, no objects to collide with. In such an undisturbed environment, an arrow shot from a bow, perhaps by a spacewalker, will literally travel forever without slowing down or altering trajectory. If the arrow leaves the bow traveling 100 miles per hour, the arrow will travel eternally at that speed, or until the universe itself collapses. No eternally perpetuating force is required to sustain the arrow's continued motion. The arrow's own inertia does the job. As you read these words, well, as I read these words, the Voyager 2 spacecraft is speeding over 35,000 miles per hour through interstellar space. Voyager is not followed by a contrail of fire and smoke belching from the spacecraft's engine nozzles. Voyager is coasting in a straight line at a constant speed and will do so forever. No propulsive force is needed to maintain Voyager's regularity and constance of motion. It is essential to recognize that inertia itself is not a force. Inertia represents the absence of a force in much the same way that the number 0, when used alone, represents the absence of something rather than the presence. Newton defined a force as anything that speeds up, slows down, or changes the direction of an object's motion. If an object travels in a straight line at a constant speed, then there are no forces acting upon it, according to Newton's first law. Regularity or constancy of motion, therefore, denotes the absence of an external force. It's easy to ridicule the ancients for believing that Greek gods perpetuated flying arrows. Yet, the Greeks, unlike the Romans and Byzantines who followed, were at least curious about these questions and spent considerable time in philosophical contemplation of nature's behavior. The main shortcoming of Greek science was that it was almost entirely philosophical, virtually devoid of real-world experimentation. All experiments were thought experiments, exercises in mental imagery rather than laboratory tests. But thought experiments are often are often instructive. So let's go back to ancient Greece and perform a thought experiment of our own. When the Greek hunter shoots an arrow toward an animal, the arrow does not travel in a straight line at a constant speed. Instead, the arrow is acted upon by an outside force, Earth's gravity, which causes the arrow to curve downward in a parabolic arc. The shape of this arc is determined by the speed of the arrow. A slow-moving arrow produces a rounder arc than a fast-moving arrow, but the fast-moving arrow travels a greater distance from the bow before touching ground when compared to the slow-moving arrow. The faster the arrow travels, the farther from the bow it lands, obviously. Now, suppose as part of our thought experiment that we have a particularly energetic hunter using a particularly powerful bow. Arrows shot from this bow travel 17,500 miles per hour. So here's the question. If the hunter launches an arrow directly toward the horizon at 17,500 miles per hour, how far will the arrow travel before it touches the ground? I'll ask it again. If the hunter launches an arrow directly toward the horizon at 17,500 miles per hour, how far will the arrow travel before it touches the ground? Anyone have the answer? All right. The answer is that the arrow will never touch the ground. Because the earth is round, not flat, and curves away from the arrow as the arrow curves toward the earth. In other words, the arc of the arrow's flight path matches the arc of the earth's surface, thus placing the arrow into low earth orbit. The arrow continually drops toward earth as earth continually drops out from under the arrow. And then they have a diagram in here that they show how mathematically that works out. But the above scenario may sound fanciful, but we have precisely described how the space shuttle maintains its Earth orbit after a power descent through and above most of Earth's atmosphere. The shuttle terminates all thrust and coasts around the planet at 17,500 miles per hour. Thereafter, the shuttle and the astronauts aboard are in a continual state of free fall, falling toward Earth's horizon as Earth's horizon continually falls away from the shuttle. Many television and print journalists, when reporting news of space shuttle flights, erroneously state that the astronauts are orbiting beyond Earth's gravity and are therefore weightless above the shuttle. To these journalists, I pose the following question. If the moon, 239,000 miles from Earth, is held in orbit by Earth's gravitational field, then how can the shuttle, orbiting 100 to 300 miles in altitude, be beyond Earth's gravity? The answer is that the space shuttle and its astronauts are not beyond Earth's gravity. In fact, there's relatively little difference between the gravitational attraction at, say, 200 miles in altitude and the gravitational attraction exerted on an object at Earth's surface. The force of gravitation, as Newton calculated, is equal to the product of the masses of the two objects, such as Earth and shuttle, divided by the square of the distance separating them. If you want to know what weightlessness feels like, then imagine yourself being on a runway elevator as it falls freely down the elevator shaft. I'm sorry, a runaway elevator. If you're standing on a bathroom scale inside the elevator as it falls, you will literally weigh nothing by the scale's measure. In fact, you may find yourself floating in midair above the scale as if you were an astronaut in orbit. Einstein himself pointed out that an object in free fall is immune from the effects of a gravitational field in the sense that the object becomes weightless. So if you're interested in learning the exact weight of the entire mass of Earth as it orbits the sun, the correct answer is 0 pounds, 0 ounces, because the Earth, like all objects in orbit, is in a gravitationally induced free fall. Returning to our imaginary friend, the Greek hunter, I suspect that many of the animals that he pursues are annoyed by having to dodge arrows all day. Let's suppose that these disgruntled animals stampede and butt the meddlesome hunter over a cliff. The hunter falls 1,000 feet to his death. Now, conferencing at the bottom of the cliff is a group of Greek theologians, hotly debating which particular god it was that transported the hunter from the top of the cliff to the bottom. Sure, the animals knocked the hunter over the cliff's edge, but only an atheist would suggest that no Greek god was involved in the hunter's subsequent downward spiral. It couldn't be, could it, that simple gravity, unaided by supernatural beings, transported the hunter to the bottom of the cliff? So what's the moral of this story? And how does it relate to modern creationism and the alleged miracle of planetary clockwork? Creationists argue that the regularity and predictability of planetary orbits are evidence of supernatural governance of the universe. In other words, creationists believe, in direct opposition to Newton's first law, that constancy and regularity of motion are evidence not only of an external force, but of a supernatural external force. So I submit to you that this creationist claim of a miraculous power guiding the planets is identical in every sense to the ancient Greek belief in God-propelled arrows or God-assisted plunges to the bottom of a cliff. Let us recall that regularity or constancy of motion denotes the absence of an external force. If gods are unnecessary to explain the continued motion of a hunter's arrow, then the gods are unnecessary to explain the continued motion of celestial objects. If gods are unnecessary to explain the hunter's downward plunge off of a cliff, then they are unnecessary to explain other gravitational fields as well. For as Isaac Newton discovered, the same gravity that pulls an apple to the ground is the same gravity that holds the moon and planets in their orbits. There is no difference, except perhaps to those who, for emotional reasons, strive to see miraculous visions and omens in the night sky. Creations of fundamentalist persuasion disagree vehemently that planetary motion is a wholly natural phenomenon. It's far more intriguing and emotionally inspiring for them to believe in divine watchmakers than to accept the mundane mathematical explanations of science. A minority of creationists, however, raise few, if any, objections to the conclusions drawn thus far in this chapter. The minority will readily accept that inertia and gravitation are not supernatural forces, and that routine planetary motion is simply the merging of gravity with inertia. Put another way, a small group of creationists do accept the scientific principle known as Occam's razor, which states that the simplest reasonable explanation is usually the most accurate. Occam's razor further requires us to slice off any unnecessary assumptions built into our scientific explanations. For example, if planetary behavior can be explained thoroughly and provably by simple gravity and inertia, then Occam's razor prohibits us from arbitrarily inventing highly complex, miracle-working gods to do the job. The needless addition of supernatural forces to our cause-effect explanations is fat that must be trimmed. Creationist fat that must be liposuctioned from all scientific and rational discourse. A minority of creationists, as noted, do not believe that God is currently hand-shepherding the planets around the solar system. Instead, they believe that a supreme being initially set the planets into motion and then thereafter stepped aside, allowing the laws of physics to govern the universe without further supernatural aid. Such a philosophy is called deism. All creationists, both fundamentalist and deist, believe that only a miracle-working God could have originally designed the solar system and started the planets along their initial orbital paths. Indeed, if we use the space shuttle as an analogy, the spacecraft's orbit must be carefully engineered by highly skilled scientists. The shuttle does not stumble accidentally into the proper orbit. There is conscious design and thoughtful planning to each flight. Nothing is left to blind chance. If the shuttle flies too slowly, it crashes to Earth. If it flies too quickly, it escapes Earth's orbit and drifts, lost forever, into interplanetary space. Achieving a stable orbit, therefore, reveals intelligent design and conscious planning on the part of NASA scientists. Why, then, doesn't the solar system itself reveal evidence of intelligent design? I mean, after all, the 9 planets all follow stable orbits. Was that a lucky accident? An incredibly fortunate coincidence? Wouldn't the odds be astronomical, no pun intended, against blind chances establishing 1, much less 9 stable orbits around our sun? To answer these questions competently and satisfyingly, we must achieve a clear understanding of how our solar system formed. Our solar system, like hundreds of billions of others, was originally an amorphous cloud of dust and gas called a nebula. Because we possess within our solar system the heavier elements such as iron, gold, and uranium, we know that this nebula was the remnant of a preceding supernova explosion. A supernova is the grand finale of a dying star whose supply of nuclear fuel has been exhausted. After literally running out of gas, a supernova collapses upon itself, then rebounds in an unimaginably powerful explosion. During this explosion, the heavier elements are formed and blown randomly back into space, forming another nebula of gas and dust. The fact that our solar system contains samples of these heavy elements means that at least one generation of stars, and perhaps two, preceded the formation of our own solar system 4.5 billion years ago. Following this supernova explosion, the remnant cloud of dust and gas began to condense or pool together due to simple gravitational attraction. As this gravitational gathering occurred, the dust and gas began to spin rapidly around a central orbital hub. This same effect is observed when you pull the stopper out of your kitchen sink. Because of gravity, water is attracted to the center of the sink, but spins rapidly before disappearing down the drain. Within this spinning cloud of dust and gas are randomly scattered regions of high mass density and low mass density. The regions of high mass density possess a stronger gravitational field than the regions of low mass density. This stronger gravitational field thus attracts still more material, which in turn produces an even more powerful gravitational attraction. Over millions of years, original areas of high mass density become runaway successes at collecting matter, while original areas of low mass density are eventually swallowed up by the more powerful gravitational fields of high density regions. These circling lumps of dense, accumulated matter are what we see today as the planets. The central orbital hub of this system possesses much more material, and thus a much stronger gravitational field than any of the fledgling planets that circle it. Most of the would-be planets eventually succumb to the powerful attraction of the central region and themselves become part of the central hub. In our own solar system, the sun contains more than 99% of all material in the system. When the central hub finally collects enough material, its growing mass produces the extreme pressures and temperatures needed to start and sustain hydrogen fusion. This nuclear fusion releases incredible amounts of energy into the form of heat and light. A star, or sun, is thus born in the center of the planetary system, which then becomes a solar system. Material orbiting the sun too closely eventually collides with the sun, adding to the solar mass. Material orbiting too quickly escapes the sun's gravitational field and leaves the solar system forever. Material orbiting at an in-between speed establishes a stable orbit, which creationists perceive to be miraculous. Logically, therefore, creationists posit a god of the gaps to explain these orbiting miracles. I think I just burnt a motherfucking hole in my pants. Anyway, these planetary miracles, like all miracles, are faulty perceptions based upon gaps in cause and effect understanding. In this case, the creationist gap in understanding takes the form of a crude statistical miscalculation. Creationists imagine that only a tiny number of orbital speed, orbital distance combinations result in a stable planetary orbit around the sun. Supernatural powers must be responsible, we're told, for successfully establishing these statistically improbable orbits. This quote-unquote planetary miracle argument falls apart quickly in two ways. First, mathematical calculations, first performed by Johannes Kepler in the early 1600s, reveal that the number of successful orbital speed, orbital distance combinations is virtually unlimited rather than minuscule. And secondly, a telescopic examination of the night sky allows us to observe directly with our own eyes celestial motion that flatly contradicts the creationist position. In other words, creationists cannot reasonably argue that the number of successful orbital speed, orbital distance combinations is tiny when we observe directly throughout the universe orbital speed, orbital distance combinations in the hundreds of millions. It is interesting to note that Kepler was a deeply religious man, striving for years to prove his theory of divine geometry in which the planets moved in perfect circles around the sun. Finally, Kepler was forced to abandon his theory because the observed motion of the planets contradicted the theory's predictions. 300 years later, modern creationism still maintains that the solar system obeys divine geometry. Here briefly are a few other examples of creationist error on the subject of astronomy. These summary examples were gleaned from creationist books, audio tapes, and speeches, and from my personal correspondence and conversation with numerous creationists over the years. I do not mean to suggest that all creationists hold the following erroneous views, but many creationists do often incorporate these mistakes into the premises of their miracle-providing arguments. Needless to say, if an argument's premises are flawed, then the argument's conclusion that the universe is miraculous in design is flawed as well. Here's the first one: creationist belief. Earth and the other planets travel in perfectly circular orbits around the sun. Now, here's the scientific fact. No planet travels in a perfectly circular orbit. Each planet's orbit has a different shape from all the other planets, and no planet even maintains a constant distance from the sun. Moreover, the sun is not at the center of any planet's orbit. Here's another Christian belief. Earth and the other planets travel around the sun at a constant speed. Here's the scientific fact. No planet travels around the sun at a constant speed. All planets vary their orbital speeds, sometimes dramatically during their revolutions around the sun. Here's another creationist belief. Earth and the other planets retrace their identical orbit around the sun each year, when the scientific fact is no planet repeats the same orbit twice. Here's another creationist belief. Earth must be precisely situated in its current orbit to support life. And here's the scientific fact. Earth could support life from an orbital position halfway to Venus all the way to the orbit of Mars. It is not miraculous that life flourishes where the environment supports it. The Earth is not situated in its current orbit because life exists. Rather, life exists because Earth's orbit lies within a vast region known as the zone of habitability. Mars also lies within this region, and very likely once supported life too, as NASA scientists have studied. Did God create Martian microorganisms as well? Okay, no? Okay. Creationism maintains that God created Earth primarily as a home for mankind. So for what purpose then did God create the other planets and stars? Creationists sometimes respond that God created the heavens to attest his majesty and to provide man with a beautiful night sky. Such an argument, already highly dubious, disintegrates further when we consider that all planets and stars visible to the naked eye are located within our own Milky Way galaxy. Of what benefit to mankind are the other 100 billion galaxies that we can't fucking see? Creationists believe that if one of the planets were eliminated from our solar system, then the entire arrangement would collapse, when the scientific fact is Newton's laws of universal gravitation disagree that a missing planet would collapse our solar system. Creationists also believe that the regular, predictable cycles of Earth, such as day and night and the four seasons, reveal supernatural design, when the scientific fact is that days and night cycle because of Earth's rotation, which is continually slowing down due to the tidal drag of the oceans against the continents. Billions of years ago, a day was less than 13 hours in duration. The seasons cycle because of the tilt of the Earth's axis. The current tilt of 23.5 degrees is temporary and variable and will shift our planet into a new ice age within a few millennia. The new seasons, as we know them today, will be unrecognizable, as during the last ice age, which ended 11,500 years ago. Surprisingly, even the Earth's magnetic field is shifting and changeable. Seafloor spreading at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean has locked into volcanic rock a history of Earth's ever-changing magnetic field. The underwater geologic record reveals that only a few thousand years ago, your compass would have pointed south. Our planet's magnetic field, like all of Earth's other properties, has undergone continuous and radical change during the past 4.5 billion years. What seems during a human lifetime to be immutable and eternal soon disappears or changes into something vastly different on the geological timescale. The regularity of nature, cited by creationists, is usually a false premise based upon short-term, short-sighted data. Creationists believe sometimes that scientists' theories about how our solar system formed are blind speculation and completely untestable. But here's the scientific fact. Using the Hubble Space Telescope and Earth-based observatories, Scientists now have photographic evidence documenting each stage in the formation of a solar system. 1, the photographs of gas and dust nebulae. 2, photographs of nebulae condensing into hydrogen-burning stars. 3, photographs of stars surrounded by their own orbitary planetary systems like our own. And 4, photographs of supernova explosions, which destroy solar systems and provide new material for the formation of new systems. Modern telescopes allow us to actually witness the births and deaths of other solar systems in our region of the Milky Way. Science, moreover, has a very clear understanding of how these solar systems naturally develop. Why then should we arrogantly presume that our solar system arose in a radically different and miraculous way? Because in past decades, I've written critically on the subject of creationism, I've received considerable feedback over the years from the Christian community. One of the most common rebuttals they pose is a famous quotation from Albert Einstein, where he says, quote, "God does not play dice with the universe." Creationists interpret this quotation to mean, 1, that Einstein believed in the biblical God, and that 2, Einstein believed that the universe was orderly, and 3, that Einstein believed that God was responsible for this order. Einstein penned his oft-repeated phrase about God in a 1926 letter to Max Born, who, along with Danish physicist Niels Bohr, fathered the study of quantum mechanics. Bohr had claimed that the behavior of subatomic particles was often chaotic and unpredictable. Bohr argued that our everyday notions of structure, order, and cause and effect do not apply at the atomic level. Einstein refused to accept such a whimsical view of nature, claiming instead that, quote, "God does not play dice with the universe." The Bohr-Einstein debate raged for over a decade. Ultimately, Bohr and Born emerged victorious in this dispute, their evidence prevailing. Einstein was admittedly wrong. So on the atomic level, at least, God does indeed play dice with the multiverse. Subatomic particles do, in fact, behave at times in random, unpredictable ways, thwarting completely our common sense expectations and even those of Albert Einstein. The question of whether Einstein believed in God depends on your definition of God. If you define God, as the creationists do, as a supernatural being who created the universe, who hears your prayers and who decides whether you go to heaven or hell, then the answer is no. By the traditional definition of God, Einstein was an atheist. Einstein himself said, "It was, of course, a lie what you read about my religious convictions, a lie which is being systematically repeated. I do not believe in a personal God, and I have never denied this, but have expressed it clearly. If something is in me which can be called religious, then it is the unbounded admiration for the structure of the world so far as our science can reveal it." Regarding life after death, Einstein said, "I cannot imagine a God who rewards and punishes the objects of his creation, whose purposes are modeled after our own. A God, in short, who is but a reflection of human frailty. Neither can I believe that the individual survives the death of his body, although feeble souls harbor such thoughts through fear or ridiculous egotism." Einstein's statement that God does not play dice with the universe was a reference to the philosophy of pantheism. Rather than proposing a miracle-working personal deity, pantheism accepts the supremacy of the laws of physics. Thus interpreted, Einstein's statement would read, "The laws of physics do not permit nature to behave randomly or chaotically." As we noted, however, even this translated non-mystical expression of Einstein's statement turns out to be false, as Niels Bohr and Max Born demonstrated. Another famous scientist frequently cited by creationists is Stephen Hawking, often called the greatest scientific genius since Einstein. In 1988, Hawking published a fascinating book called A Brief History of Time. This outstanding bestseller explains the current popular theories describing the Big Bang origin of our universe. Quite open-mindedly, Hawking also analyzes the creationist claim that supernatural powers are necessary to explain the existence of the universe. Hawking concludes that no such powers are required, and that our universe was and is entirely natural, rather than supernatural, in origin and operation. Inexplicably, however, creationists, and to an even greater extent the news media, have portrayed Hawking's book as endorsing creationism because he uses the word God throughout the text when critiquing creationist arguments. Never mind that the entire thesis of Hawking's book flatly rejects creationism. Never mind that Hawking is openly atheistic. Never mind that Hawking discovered his wife Jane in part because she became a creationist. I'm sorry, divorced his wife in part because she became a creationist. Hawking used the word God in his book, so he must be a creationist too. Christians be so desperate. Anyway, the ABC News magazine 2020 ran an overhyped ratings boosting special proclaiming that a newly published book provided a scientific basis for religious faith. Television and radio evangelists often cite Hawking as proving that God created the universe. This vulgar misinterpretation, often deliberate, of a brief history of time reflects a very sad, profoundly disturbing aspect of American society. Science illiteracy is so ubiquitous and religious dogma so firmly ingrained that legions cannot read a well-written science book without hallucinating the supernatural on every page. Where's my motherfucking pen at? No, you know what? I don't need a motherfucking pen. I'm just gonna pause for the motherfucking cause. I keep doing this. I don't even be drinking my coffee, bruh. I don't even drink the coffee. I pour the coffee, I eat the coffee up, and I don't drink the coffee. It just sits here and gets motherfucking room temp because I'm always reading this shit. This is what I normally do, you sons of bitches. You know what I'm saying? Like when I ain't at work, you know what I'm saying? When I ain't at work, I come home. Like I have a routine, you know what I'm saying? Like every day, Monday through Friday, when I get up, get myself ready for work, I do 200 push-ups, you know what I'm saying? And then cheese it to work. Make sure I got my book because every day on lunch break, I read my book, you know what I'm saying? Whichever book I'm reading at the time, usually a science book or some book about religion or a history book or a political science book or something, you know what I'm saying? But it's never fiction. I'm never reading bullshit. I'm only trying to learn, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of the books that I read twice, some of them 3 times, you know what I'm saying? Because I truly want to have an understanding of what it is I'm reading and a comprehension, you know what I'm saying? Like, so anyway, so when I'm not, so yeah, so I'll do that. And then when I come home from work, you know, I'll shoot a video or so, you know, if I got time. And then I'm cleaning and then reading some more, you know what I'm saying? And I repeat this every week, you know, like I don't spend a whole lot of time making all these videos that y'all be seeing that I be posting. Like I don't even post as often as I used to post, you know what I'm saying? But because I just feel like I need to spend a lot more of my time getting educated, you know what I'm saying? Like I try to read the Bible on a regular basis, you know, because it's so all over the place, and it's truly disgusting. Like I really don't see how people get their morals from that. Like it don't make any motherfucking sense. Like the God of the Bible is a motherfucking monster. A motherfucking monster. Like one time Richard Dawkins had accurately described the God of the Bible. He used all kind of adjectives and shit, and them shits was accurate as fuck. Like, bruh, the God of the Bible is a monster, a xenophobic, racist, bigoted, misogynistic, you know what I'm saying, child-killing fucking murderer. Like, that dude is just horrible, dog. Horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. But yeah, man, so I'll be reading the Bible for that. Like hell nah. Because I'm always coming across scriptures. It's like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? I don't even see how Christians read the Bible and be like, yes, Lord, and all that shit. I mean, I get it because, like, you know, they're preachers or whatever, I guess, skilled orators and know how to finesse some shit. You know what I mean? They know how to guide you to certain scriptures and interpret them in, you know, feel-goody ways while completely, you know, omitting, completely disregarding all the shit that's gonna, you know, that's gonna take a little bit more skill to defend, you know. You're gonna need a little bit more finesse, son, to explain why this shit says you can own people as property. I don't care what you call them. If you're, whatever you want to call the position of someone being owned by another human being as property, like I own this cigarette. I can do whatever I want to this cigarette right now. I can do whatever I want to it, to the cigarette. You know what I'm saying? Like I can smoke it. I could put it out. I could give it to someone else. I could throw it. I could step on it. I could eat it. I could flush it in the toilet. I could thump it over and over. I could just set the whole fucking thing on fire. I can do whatever I want to it because I own it. It's property. It's mine. I can do whatever the fuck I want to it. And this is what a slave, this is what another human being was referred to as in the Bible. It's just another person just another property that you own that you could bequeath to your children. And that's the book that you think you get your morals from. Get the fuck out of here. Then you are an immoral piece of shit if you get your morals from the Bible. The Bible clearly is cool with slavery. It is cool with it. Totally cool with it. Chattel slavery at that. You know what I'm saying? It's totally cool with it. And I'm like, I don't see how you can be a Christian and defend that piece of shit and be like, oh, I get my morals from the Bible. Anybody who truly believes they get their morals from the Bible, stay the fuck away from me. Because who knows? You know what I'm saying? I mean, the Bible, God was like, yo, I'm going to send 2 bears to maul to death 42 children just for making fun of a dude, for being bald, just for making fun of him. Didn't hurt the guy, didn't throw rocks at him, didn't pelt him with pebbles or, you know what I mean? Just, baldy, sent 2 bears to maul the fuck out of all 42 children, son. Like, that's your loving God right there? That's loving? That's, okay. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? You know what I mean? But your God loves children. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? I thought he loved children. What the fuck? Thought he was pro-life or whatever. Not those 42 children's lives, I guess not. He's so merciful. He's all merciful. Tell that to the Amalekites. You know what I'm saying? Who was it, Saul? Like, he was mad as fucking Saul because I think it was Saul. He had somebody like, man, kill all the Amalekites. But because he didn't kill one dude left, he was pissed as fuck. Like, motherfucker, didn't I tell you kill everybody? What the fuck you leave him alive for? I said everybody. Like, God doesn't sound merciful. He sounds vengeful, but he said himself in the Bible, my name is jealous. Like, God said straight up, my name is I'm so jealous, that's my name. You know how we be like, yeah, nigga, excitement is my middle name, son. I'm all about that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, God's like, that ain't my middle name. That is my first motherfucking name. You understand what I'm talking about? I'm jealous. Why do you think the motherfucking first commandment is, I'm God. No one else. Don't worship nobody other than me. That's it. It's just me, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, because he's jealous. He's like, I wish you would worship another motherfucking God, son. It's like, I'm jealous. What the fuck? That nigga was so ready to just murder and destroy. Murder and destroy. Murder and destroy. No, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah. I mean, how many times was he gonna do it? Like the Amalekites? What about the people of Sodom and Gomorrah? Even the babies had to be killed. You know what I'm saying? Like, what about the innocent people, children, like women and children who wasn't involved in like the political? They couldn't be. Like they were involved in the political affairs of the men folk. You know what I'm saying? They had to die too. Like, goddamn, dog. Like, who gives a fuck if they were fucking with each other? So what? So what? You know what I'm saying? Those are natural human inclinations to have sex or whatever the fuck. You're like, I'm gonna burn them all. Fuck them all. Children, pregnant people, all of them. Sucks to be someone in the land of fucking Sodom and Gomorrah. Holy shit. Like, doesn't sound like God's very merciful then. Tell that to the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. Tell that to the Amalekites. You know what I'm saying? Fuck out of here. Or tell that to the people of the whole fucking earth. You know what I'm saying? So they all had to be drowned in a horrible fucking death. Only for fucking what, Moses' family to survive. Y'all believe the dumbest fucking shit, like the dumbest scientifically debunked bullshit. Like, y'all just believe the most dumbest nonsense, bro. Like, get the fuck out of here. But anyway, back to the point. So God's loving and merciful and all that, but yet at the same time, drown everybody, animals, plant-based, like organ, I don't care, kill them all, murder them all, drown to death for forever. I don't give a fuck. Only this dude and his family get to live. That's it. It's like, what is that about? That doesn't sound like love and mercy. That sounds like some bullshit. Or what about the people like with Egypt, Moses and all those people, and then you like split the water and then like water on all of them, kill everybody. Like, man, don't you know most armies ain't run by the fucking, like, they're not enacted by, like, for instance, today's army. If you was to send an army out to some motherfuckers that's fucking up, like that the government was like, man, go get them motherfuckers. Who do you think them motherfuckers are? They're the low level privates and specialists, and you know what I'm saying? They're the low motherfuckers on the shit. So God essentially just killed all the low level motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? But even if that weren't the case, I don't give a fuck. Like, well, where was their trial? Like, they didn't get just death. You know what I'm saying? Like, get the fuck out of here, bruh. No mercy. Y'all's God is not merciful. Well, that was the Old Testament. Jesus came and he brought the new covenant. Oh, so never mind the Old Testament then. So we can just throw out all that nonsense of the creation story, Adam and Eve, Moses, the Ten Commandments. We can just toss all that to the trash, right? Because Jesus and the new covenant or whatever the fuck, right? Even though Jesus himself said, I ain't come to change shit. And he was like, I ain't changing a jot or a tittle of the law until it is, I ain't changing shit until the prophecy's been fulfilled, motherfucker. He's like, so whatever is in place, that's what's in place, period. And I ain't come to change nothing. I mean, of course he didn't. When motherfuckers was asking what I gotta do, he's like, well, keep the commandments, motherfucker. If you want to get to heaven, keep the commandments. And he's like, all right, well, I already do all that shit. What else I gotta do? And then Jesus is like, all right, well, sell all your shit. Sell all your shit, give the money to the poor, and then just walk with me. Like, you don't need none of that shit. And then he was just like, oh, fuck. Man, I ain't trying to do all that shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, Jesus said, nigga, you know what it is. I don't give a fuck, nigga. So if you got shit, if you got shit right now, then you full of shit. Because Jesus said you don't need none of that shit. What you need a house for? What you need an apartment for? What you need a job for? What you need clothes for, motherfucker? He said, sell that shit. He's like, whatever you need will be provided for you in heaven. God damn it. So what the fuck you got a car for? What the fuck you looking at me for on this phone? Why you got a phone? Christian, you know what I'm saying? Let's sell your phone, get that money to the poor. You know, get the fuck out of here. Donate your clothes to the Goodwill or the Salvation Army or some shit. You know what I'm saying? If you ain't doing that, you a piece of shit. Like Jesus said, you don't need no earthly shit. Fuck you mean? Why are you storing up earthly treasures? All your treasures will be awarded to you in heaven, motherfucker. So ain't that where you trying to go? Fuck earth, right? Like you trying to get to heaven. So what the fuck you got stuff for? Fuck out of here. Hypocritical ass motherfucking lying ass Christians. But you want to put that shit on the rest of us. Like we all got to just adhere to your fucking Christian values when you don't even live by them. Fuck out of here. Me and this coffee, man, shit. Y'all got me bullshit. I got a blunt over here just burning away. What's up, Datum? I guess that's how you say it. You do it. Of love. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know you meant out of love, but man, I'll be merciless when it comes to these Christians, man. What surprises me, well, it shouldn't surprise me, but it kind of does, is when I'm looking at my comments and Christians have, at least the Christians who like get in their feelings and need to comment on my videos, have the worst grammar. Like the amount of run-on sentences and grammatical errors is staggering. Like, how you gonna shit on me and you can't even shit on me legibly? Like, what is it you're trying to say to me right now? Like, some of this should be so, like, you can't even read it. Like, I don't even know what is this gibberish, which further perplexes me because we have autocorrect. Like, did you feel like you didn't need it? Like, I'm good. I know how to spell. I don't need autocorrect. I'll just go for it, Well, you're failing. Like, you're not good at this. And by this, I mean spelling. You're not good at grammar. You're not good at constructing sentences. You know what I'm saying? Like, get it together. Like, is that what Christianity is doing to you? Rotting your brain? Like, it's just like, is education anathema to you? I don't get it. Like, But that's cool. You know what I'm saying? I just wish Christians, I just can't fucking. The thing that bothers me most about Christians is that they're all fucking like high off their own farts, if you will. Some of them more obvious than others. You know what I mean? Like you got those that are like, you know what I mean? Like when I be debating, when I'm reading these comments, the way they come off is so smug. And so, I know I'm right, and you're just lost, dumbass atheist. You know what I mean? Or whatever the fuck. It's honestly gold. Keep it coming, people. Keep it coming. I love it. I like, keep it coming. But yeah, man. So like, they be like, and so those are the people I feel like a little bit more like over the top. But the ones that are like, that you meet day to day, that like, if you at work, and you have an argument with someone, and then that person says, all right, well, I'm gonna pray for you then, boo-boo, and all that. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's that condescension, where you're condescending to me as though now you put yourself on a pedestal. You know what I mean? And then I'm just this pitiful thing that you need to pray for, or whatever the fuck. But every single one of them do it. Every single motherfucking one of them. Okay, that's fallacious. I don't know that all of them do it. But the majority of the ones that I have encountered fit that description. You know what I'm saying? Like, just can't wait to show. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why? We were just having a regular discussion. How did it devolve into the fantasy land? Like, now you're talking about praying for me. Like, what? I mean, for me, that's just weird when Christians do that. I mean, I don't feel the need to tell people about my delusions. You know what I'm saying? Not that I have any, but assuming I did, I wouldn't feel the need to like keep bringing that shit up all the time. Like, you know, I just thank the Lord Jesus because it had not been for him. And the only reason why they get away with saying that is because so many other people bought into the delusion. And it's ridiculous. But if it had been any other thing, like, let me have said anything else. Like, oh, if it had not been for Lord Voldemort, we probably would not have come up with the money for rent last month. Like, I mean, all praise be to Voldemort. You know, you would think I was out of my mind, but because it's Jesus, and now it's all like, oh, of course, you know. What? Get the fuck doesn't know. Had it not been for the good grace of Harry Potter, I would never have found my car keys. I swear to Harry. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? It's just as absurd. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. Why must you bring this up? I'll pray for you. God bless you and all that other shit. It's like, get the fuck out of here with that nonsense. Peace be unto you then, since we're doing made up fucking fictional shit. Peace be unto you, my dude. You know what I mean? Madam. I mean, holy fucking shit. Absolutely no motherfucking evidence. I used to think there was certain shit you couldn't say because then God will for sure get your motherfucking ass in the now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to think there was shit you couldn't say. Clearly, that's not true. Like, you can literally say literally anything about any God, and nothing will happen to you. Nothing that wasn't going to happen anyway. You know what I'm saying? And what's funny to me is, if you felt like God knew everything in advance, well, then he already knew I was going to say shit. He already knew what was going to be said. Now, was he already... And I already knew he wasn't going to do shit about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, people are going to call out my name, you know, or whatever, and they're not going to believe I exist. But I'm not going to do anything about it, even though I'm a jealous guy, and I've definitely done shit about it in the Bible. But I just, you know... I'll just wait until they're dead, and then I'll deal with them then. Is that how it happens? Is that the story? Is that how it goes? You just fucking wait. You'll see when you're dead, which makes absolutely no sense. How you gonna see anything when you're dead? You're dead. You don't have the ability to see any longer. Oh, you mean, you'll finally come to understand when you're dead. Again, understanding is a function of the mind, which ceases to operate at the point of death. So again, how am I going to understand something? Well, you'll realize God will make you know. I have to realize and know things through the processes that occur in my brain, which is fucking dead at the point of death. So again, what are you talking about? Well, you just wait and see. You'll find out. You just wait. All right. Well, how about so will you? Since we can just say dumb shit, we can just say unverified nonsense. All right. What the fuck? And I mean, in that case, motherfucker, I'm God. How about that? Shit, I don't have to prove nothing since you don't have to prove anything. Can't prove I ain't God, bitch. You know what I'm saying? So how about that? You don't know the limits of my abilities. You don't know what my edicts are. But I know for one, if I did have any edicts, one of them would be don't own other human beings as properties, motherfucker. That's no. And you can eat as much shellfish as you want, as long as you're not allergic to it. And even then you can do it, but I wouldn't recommend it, Hell yeah. Number one, that'd probably be number one. Don't own other people. Because I'm the all-knowing God, and I know that that's something y'all are going to want to do after I create y'all. Eventually down the line, that's what y'all going to want to do. So how about, let's not do that. Don't do that. Let's not do that. Oh, and women, females, those who are identified as women or females are to be fully autonomous individuals. They are not to be legislated against, They are not to be made merely concubines, breed mares, or property or playthings of men. Like children, obey your parents. Unless they give you a reason not to. I don't fucking know. I actually don't fucking know about that one. Like, I don't know. But what if your parents are pieces of shit and they don't necessarily have your best interest at heart? Well, then should you listen to them? Yeah. Maybe on a case-by-case basis. Thou shalt not murder. Fuck out of here. Of course you shouldn't. What the fuck? Like we really needed divine, and you know what I'm saying? A divine command to be told don't kill other people just because, Fuck out of here. Of course not, dumbass. Although it's real rich coming from the guy that was like, kill all the firstborns. Fuck them, It's real rich, I guess it's all right when you do it. We just can't do it, Even though the only way you do it was through us. Like, you got to use human vessels to do your killing. Fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? Why is your all's God so fucking weak? He can't just do it himself. Like, you always got to, like, have human beings do it. That's curious. Fuck out of here. Y'all God weak as fuck. He can't do shit on his own. And I don't like when motherfuckers be like, you be so hard on Christianity. Why aren't you talking about Islam that way? What you trying to say? I still feel like when they say that, that's just some racist ass shit. Like, you just think because it's Islam that, oh, they'll come blow your ass up. Like, that's a trope. Fuck you. First of all, I'd be more afraid of a Christian. More Christian right-wing extremists have conducted way more terrorism in this country than any fucking Quran reading motherfucker. I'll just put it that way. Islamic terrorism ain't a thing. Christian nationalism terrorism is, though. That's a thing. But you see me still criticizing y'all because fuck y'all. You know what I'm saying? And y'all be like, you don't talk shit about Islam. Yes, I have. I'll do it right now. Fuck Islam. Fuck Muhammad. Fuck Allah. How about that? Feel better? Like shit. Anybody that's like, you don't talk about Islam like that, I'm saying it now. Fuck the Quran. Fuck all that shit. I don't know what to tell you, bro. It's stupid too. It's stupid. It's dumb as fuck. Just like Christianity is stupid and dumb as fuck. Now, followers of these religions maybe not be stupid and dumb as fuck. They're just misguided, ignorant, incredulous. But not necessarily stupid or dumb as fuck. You know what I mean? Some are, but not all of them. But yeah, I just think all fucking religions are dumb. Motherfuckers like, well, you believe in the devil. No, the fuck I don't. You don't know what the fuck I believe. I told you I was an atheist. That's all you need to know. And if I'm an atheist, I mean, I don't believe in the devil. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in heaven, hell, angels, demons, afterlives. Like, y'all tripping. Ain't no evidence for that shit. Y'all tripping out of y'all motherfucking minds. And you ain't even tripping in a good way. Like, most motherfuckers, when they having a tripping experience, like, oh, bro, I was tripping on some fucking ecstasy or fucking shrooms or whatever. It's like, yo, I want to give me some of that. You know, but y'all was just like, man, if you don't do what God say, he will burn you forever and ever in eternity just because you didn't, for something as simple as not believing in him. Like, I don't want to be on that trip. I'm cool. Like, that's, why you believe that shit? Like, Christianity, keep that shit away from me and my children. Like, most importantly, my children. I can at least reason that shit away. They can't. You know, they believe in Santa Claus and Peter Pan and ghosts and haunted houses and carrying on. Like, get the fuck out of here. I ain't got time for that shit. We got real world ass problems that are not going to be solved by appealing to any gods. We're going to have to do all this work our motherfucking selves. And we need each other. We don't need any fucking gods. You can appeal to it all you want as long as you're willing to do the actual fucking work and don't just be like, well, we're going to put it in the God's hands or Jesus take the wheel. Well, then get the fuck out of my car. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, ain't no Jesus taking the motherfucking wheel. Like, you might as well just say Casper take the wheel. You might as well just say fucking Goofy take the wheel. Mickey Mouse take the wheel. Like, I mean, if we're just making up fictional characters to take the wheel, to take control of our lives, then why stop at Jesus? Pikachu take the wheel. Goku take the wheel. Fucking Scorpion take the wheel. Shang Tsung take the wheel. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, why did you have to go there? That's what I be talking about. Like, Christians always want to go on some other shit. Like, bro, we was just having a reasonable discussion, and then you just invoke the supernatural for what? Like, why did you have to go there? Like, I can't stand that shit. Like, because it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. There's no basis for it. It's ridiculous. But I love Christians telling me I'm wrong. That shit gets my fucking dick hard. Keep telling me I'm wrong. Keep telling me I need Jesus. Keep telling me I'm lost. Keep telling me you'll pray for me. Keep saying it. Just keep doing it. I need it. I love it. I need you to tell me how wrong I am. I live off that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because you're never gonna convince me. You know what I mean? Motherfuckers be like, oh, his shirt says a lot. Like, no, the fuck it doesn't. It doesn't say anything, actually. It's just fucking a picture, you know? Just like this hat. That's why I'm like, watch, I'm about to start getting some Jesus Saves shirts and some praise the Lord and all that. I'm about to get some shirts that say that, since people seem to think that your shirts mean something. Like, it's just clothes, dog. Like, the number one reason I wear anything related to Satan or the devil or the occult is literally just because it bothers Christians. I don't subscribe to any of this shit. It means nothing to me. It just looks nice. I think it looks nice. I get a lot of compliments on the fucking, you know what I mean? A lot of compliments. I'm like, it just looks nice. It fits my personality, you know. But motherfuckers be like, oh, he worships the devil. Well, you can't believe in the devil without believing in God, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but I never said I believed in the devil. You're just presupposing that. The evidence you have isn't even good. Like, you could just go off my videos and be like, well, in all these videos, you got a shirt that says Hail Satan, you got a shirt that says Antichrist, you got another shirt that says Antichrist, you know, like, so clearly you believe in the devil. Blah, blah, blah. Like, no, clearly I have shirts that you don't like. That's all that means. Doesn't mean I subscribe to any of that shit. You know, I said, fuck you mean? Like, are you that dumb? Like, that you're just like, what that person's wearing says a lot about what they subscribe to ideologically. You know what I mean? Like, It's just fucking clothes, you know what I'm saying? Just fucking printed mass-produced material in a capitalist society. Like, it's just something you can buy. There's plenty more where this came from. This, you know what I mean? It's not like we constructed this at the small occult of Satanists where we're just making our own satanic club. No, motherfuckers is mass-produced, probably by someone who believes in God. You know, just because it's money. People will buy it, so they made it. And they were right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what the fuck? It's capitalism, baby. That's the real God. Didn't you know? Fuck out of here. Ain't no Jesus. Ain't no Jehovah. Ain't no Allah. What are you saying? That's not who you worship. You worship capitalism, dumbass. Of course you do. You just use religion as a reason to, I guess, not to actually address the problems in your life. So just, God will take care of it. Everything's a test just to keep you docile so you'll never actually challenge that which is actually causing all of your issues and your problems. Because it's not gay people. It's not trans people. It's not the left, please. It's not even Republicans. Like, it's not who you think it is. It's the establishment. It is Washington. It is the media. It is the billionaires working together. The corporation owners. They all have a similar interest, and that is profit and power. And that's all they want. More of both. You know what I'm saying? That's all. That's it. They don't give a fuck who they got to appeal to. They don't care. They don't care. Like, as long as they can get that, it's like a drug. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're in the throes of some drug, you don't give a fuck. Like, depending on what the drug is, like, say, for instance, crack back in the day. When you was in the throes of a crack addiction, you would have sold your child. Like, you didn't give a fuck. Like, because it wasn't you making rational decisions. It was the drug saying, get me. Get more of me. I don't care what you got to do to get me. Get me. And it's like, that's what profit and power is. This is like, acquire more of me. That's it. I don't care whose expense or what expense. Acquire more of me. That's the logic of capital. Just keep getting more. You know, and you got to secure the power in order to, you know, keep the peasants away from trying to take away our money, our profits and shit, you know, and our power. You know, fuck that. You know, like, give money to the peasants so that they can actually have a meaningful existence. Fuck out of here. I need to amass an amount of wealth that I'll never be able to spend, or my descendants will ever be able to spend. That's what needs to happen, okay? At whoever's expense. I don't care how poor the country is. I don't care how many people don't have health care. I don't care how many people don't make a decent wage. I don't care how many people don't have, you know, I don't care. All I care about is getting more profits and maintaining the power I have in order to secure more profits. Don't give a shit whose expense. Doesn't fucking matter. I don't care if it's my own countrymen. I don't care if it's my own religious community. I don't care what it is. Profit, I need it. I gotta have it. Power, profit, I must have it. Meanwhile, you just want to survive. You're not all mad hungry for profit and power. You're just trying to exist and have a meaningful existence. You're not trying to do it at someone's expense. You're just trying to do it. You're just trying to live. I'm just trying to feed my children. I'm just trying to pay my bills, feed my children, and maybe have a little bit left over to save or to invest in my further education or something, or to put in my children's college fund or whatever, you know. But because everything costs, because you mean nothing to capital, you're just something else that could potentially either create more profit for me or who can buy something that I'm producing. That is it. Like, you're not a countryman. You're not someone I need to care about. You're not my family. Fuck you. You're just a consumer. So if you need anything, housing, you got to pay for it. You need to eat, you need to pay for it. You need water, you need to pay for it. You need to get around, you need to pay for it. You need education, pay for it. You need medical, pay for it. Like, whatever it is, you got to pay for it. Because capital, I don't give a fuck about you. Like, and that's exactly what capital is trying to tell you. That is why capitalists, though they may be nice people, are inherently wicked, because capitalism is wicked. It doesn't care. And so therefore, if they want to continue to make more capital and create and sustain or acquire more power, then they're going to have to acquiesce to the demands of capital. They can never, ever acquiesce to the demands of the bewildered herd. Fuck the peasants. Who cares if they starve? Who cares if their existence has been whittled down to nothing more than an extension of the machines with which they work in order to acquire some meaningful subsistence? Who cares? Fuck them. Fuck them, fuck their children, fuck their grandparents and their parents, fuck their community, fuck them all. All I want is more money and power. But yet, the people who are most exploited by the system, which is practically everyone else, are over here raising the banner and championing capitalism. Like, are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious? Like, the reason your life fucking sucks is because of capitalism. Are you serious? Like, and you want to go, capitalism? Like, get the fuck out of here with your dumb ass. Capitalism is a cancer in our society. It didn't have to be, but it necessarily is. It can only function through exploitation in order to get profit. And the only way to get more profits is to further exploit, to further alienate, to further exploit. Like, I know I already said that, but I'm just like, that's the name of the game, exploitation. I got to either exploit you or the land or both. Like, but either way, I got to get profits, and not just profits. Like, I need to constantly be getting more profits than I got last quarter. Like, and it doesn't matter, again, at what or whom's expense. Like, and then yet here your dumbass is one of the many people who could just be tossed away and you're expendable. You mean nothing. Over here defending the very system that is in place, that has caused this disparity between the amount of money that they get and the amount of money that you get versus the amount of work that they actually put in day to day that you put in day to day. It's just ridiculousness. Like, why would you defend that system? But again, if you can rationalize this bullshit exploitative system, then I guess you can rationalize Christianity. Like, I mean, you can rationalize the morality, so-called morality that you derive from the Bible. I suppose you can do that. If you're just willing to overlook a whole lot of shit, you know, it's like, well, sure, I suppose. But I'm not willing to overlook shit. I'm going to look at what the fucking reality is. Is there really a God? You know, are there really angels in heavens? Was Jesus really divine? Should he have existed at all? Is the United States an actual democracy? Is capitalism the best economic system? These are all questions I have to answer. Like, I need the answers to these questions, you know. So I'm not going to just accept my preconceived notions that America is the good guys, you know. America only has the best interest in mind when we do anything overseas. America is a democracy. The Constitution is an excellent document that had every human being in mind who was in America at the time. Meritocracy is real. Like, these are all myths that I had to reconcile with the facts. The facts being that of all terrorist nations in the world, we are by far the worst. Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, fucking Hamas, fucking ISIS, none of these people have anything on the United States. None of these people have anything on the United States. Can't touch us. The amount of shit, war crimes, every president we've had, damn near, was a war criminal. At least every president that I know of since Roosevelt, you know what I'm saying, was a fucking war criminal. Look how many acts of aggression we've been involved in. But yet when other countries do it, it's shame on you. How could they? But we do it almost as a matter of course. Like, we just, yeah. We do it all the fucking time. But yet we're not held to account by the International Criminal Court. We won't even recognize their authority. We're like, hell nah. We won't even define what terrorism is because then we'd be forced to acknowledge that that's exactly what we do. So yeah, we're not gonna do that. Can you imagine just like not obeying a law or recognizing a law as legit because that specific law addresses the very thing you do all the time? So like if you're a drug kingpin and you're just trafficking dope and you're like, I do not recognize any anti-drug policies. Those are all illegitimate. What do you mean? No. That way I can never be held account for anything that's related to the drug. Like that's what the America did. Like, nah, we don't fuck with that. We're not recognizing the International Criminal Court. I mean, all the rest of y'all can. You know, all the rest of you nations who don't necessarily engage in terrorism at the scale at which we do. You guys can, but we're not, because, you know, and neither is Israel, by the way. We're cool. So when I say fuck America, I don't mean like fuck Americans. I mean fuck America as an idea. As the idea that it is. As the idea that pops in people's minds when they think of America, in the minds of people who aren't in America. So ask a German, ask someone from Africa or the Middle East. What do you think of America? It's like, yeah, they're probably accurate because we've all been self-deluded. We love self-delusion here in America. We like to think we're always the good guys and that democracy is real and my voice matters and, you know, like God, there is a God, and specifically the Christian one, all this shit. We don't need, in spite of evidence to the contrary. It's not that there's no evidence, it's just no. In spite of evidence to the contrary, we still accept these myths with no evidence to support the myth. What evidence is there? There's more evidence to suggest that America was the good guy, even though there's very little of it, but at least exists, than there is for the idea that there's some sort of fucking Jesus who was born again after 3 days or raised from the dead or whatever the fuck. And then all these other people, dead people walked in the streets, all these other zombies walking around and fucking shit. And not to mention Lazarus, who was also a dead fucking dude who came back to life or whatever. Like all these motherfucking zombies. Apparently just rising from the dead was just a normal occurrence there back then and shit. I mean, he could do it, Lazarus did it, all these other people just did it. So what do you make fucking Jesus special? Fuck him, you know. What the fuck? What about the empty tomb? You're assuming there was a tomb. Fuck you and the tomb. How about that? Provide evidence there was a tomb, dumbass. Provide evidence for any of that nonsense that y'all believe. Like, bull, fuck out of here. I would even concede that there was a Jesus. Not that there's any real reason to do so, but I'll do it. I'm like, all right, sure. Maybe he was real. Whatever. I still don't believe so. I believe he was an amalgamation of different people, or, you know what I mean? Just sort of put into one character. But assuming it was one dude who was here, all right, whatever. That doesn't fucking mean he was the son of God, or that he rose from the dead after 3 days, or walked on water, spitting dirt, and cured blindness. Like, get the fuck out of here. I don't mean I have to accept any of that shit. Like, nah, that's a step too far, you know. Sort of like the cosmological argument, where they're like, everything has a cause for its existence, the earth began to exist, therefore the earth has a cause for its existence. Doesn't say anything about God. But even if I were to say, all right, so that means there must be a God. All right, well, how did we get from there must be a God to now it must be your God? And that God doesn't want you to eat shellfish. And that God doesn't want you to wear mixed fabrics. And that God doesn't want you to eat animals and chew the cud and cloven hooves or whatever the fuck that's about. And that God doesn't want you to fuck other dudes if you're a dude. And that God said women are not allowed to have authority over men. She is to remain silent. How did we get from, okay, so the universe had to have a cause for its existence, therefore, you're not allowed to fuck another dude. You know, like, how do we get there? Like, no, like, that's a leap I'm not willing to take. Like, and I don't see why you would take the leap, because you don't have any evidence for that shit. You're just believing a fucking dumbass book written by a bunch of illiterate dumbasses back in the fucking Bronze Age, you idiots. Why would you believe that shit? We got better science now. You don't want to believe that either. You're like, nah, man. Them motherfuckers who had no idea of science or microbiology or none of that shit, they had it going on. Them motherfuckers were on to something. No, the fuck they weren't. They might have been on something, but we weren't on to something. No, sir. No. Not at all. We have the answers now. We may not have all the answers, but we have a lot of the answers. There's no reason to posit your dumbass fucking God, your racist, bigoted, misogynistic, stupid, fucking fig tree cursing ass God. There's no reason to posit that. There's just no reason. Anywho, that being said, I'm about to get the fuck out of here, bro. It's a nice ass day. Look outside. I'm a piece of shit truck. Yeah. Stupid. I'm gonna make me some more coffee. Thanks, man, y'all motherfuckers for watching. I'm sorry I didn't really respond to y'all, but I just had some shit I wanted to get off my chest. But the main takeaway is Christians, keep it coming, baby. Keep it coming. Keep the long ass, dumb ass diatribes y'all leave as comments. Keep it coming. Half of them I don't even read, dog. More than half. Some of them I read. You know, if I respond, obviously I read it. You know what I'm saying? But like, most of that shit I'm not reading, son. Because I feel like most of the comments don't even necessarily be for me. They're just like for other people who happen to see my shit. And they're like leaving the comment for other people leaving comments. They're like, nah, man, y'all need to. And then they want to leave all this long ass shit where the Bible says in Luke, whatever the fuck. And it's like, bro, why do I give a fuck what Luke says? Like, you haven't established that I need to care what the Bible says. Because right now my position is fuck the Bible. And always will be, because it ain't changed. Like, it's the same shit. Fuck out of here. Still be like, nigga, you can own slaves. I don't give a fuck. Just don't beat them to the point of death within a few days. Because they're your money that you can pass on to your children. So, sure. You know? Like, it says you can let them go and all that. Yeah, depending on what kind of slave you're talking about. Because they're talking about, motherfucker, if they were descendants of Ham, motherfuckers look like me. Oh, that's exactly what they were talking about. Like, yeah, you can enslave that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? The descendants of Ham, them heathens that surround you, yeah, you can enslave them. You know. But if you slave, like in Hebrew slaves, well, you gotta let them go after 7 years. Unless they tell you that they love you and their wife, because you gave them a wife, and they don't want to leave their wife. In which case, you can take them to the council, tell them, you know, like, hey, tell them what you told me. And they'll be like, all right. Then they'll pierce his ear, and then now he's your slave forever. You know, otherwise, if it's a fucking slave from the nations around you, you ain't gotta let them go. They're yours forever, son. So know your fucking scripture before you start coming at me. Because I guarantee I know your Bible better than you do. And I know logic better than you, dumbass. Don't be trying to challenge me. Fuck out of here. You better know what the fuck you talking about. You better at least read the Bible once before you come at me. Fuck out of here. Anyway, I'm out. And fuck Christianity.